Welcome to the Linux channel. So I was going through viewer comments and often I get this quite frequently, and as well in email as well. I want to get into programming. I'm very new to the same, and how I can start, how I can become a programmer and stuff. So before addressing the same, I would like to mention that don't assume I'm just a YouTuber or something. I do actively work for multiple companies as a consulting architect or a product consultant and a technical consultant and stuff like that. I mean, there is no such role or something hard-coded because I work as a independent consultant. I do work closely with the CEOs and CTOs, and I take care of some of the architecting aspects, and I do even coding as well sometimes. Okay, sometimes it can be some kind of prototyping and stuff. Anyway, so that's part of about me. So with that, hope you can understand where I stand before I talk a topic like this. So I get quite very often, I mean to say that almost once in a day or twice in a day, I get comments or else emails saying that I'm very new to the programming and stuff. So I do discuss these things in my videos by just putting a sort of add-on information. But I thought since it is so frequent, let me take a dedicated video so that you can get a proper picture. See, when it comes to coding, unfortunately what is happening is, you are forced to learn a programming language. Okay, so in your school or college, they start teaching you, Java or C or something like that, and they start, teaching all the stuff. But in the reality, the syntax comes, next. The first thing is all about the requirement and how you code, okay, how you write a meaningful code. So this is something again I discuss with my students. See, there's a difference between a poet, author of a book, okay, an author of a book, like we take instance like Harry Potter. Okay, see, she have done that, book, she wrote that story. The storytelling is what it makes sense. The language and grammar, everything comes next, because how do you represent that, story, whatever in their mind, is what you need a language for. So they can directly write something like that in English directly, or they can write in Italian, French or whatever. Okay, so which language you express that, your thoughts comes next. The first thing is about thoughts and the ideas and the story behind it. So the storytelling is the most important aspect. Same way when it comes to coding, the logic is the most important aspect. Okay, so they teach you, you can do flowcharts, you can do pseudocode and stuff. In my case, I generally don't do neither of that. Okay, so if I get some quick idea, I take some pad. Let me just grab one. I usually keep a pad like this. Yep. Yeah, you can see here I usually keep a pad like this. I just quickly jot down my ideas, so or some kind of a flow in case if I'm stuck, if I need to solve a specific issue. So I just quickly make a note, and sometimes I take a scan of this, but these days I take a photo of this with my smartphone and I can directly send to my clients. Okay, so if it is so urgent, something like that, so, or if I get sudden idea or something, I generally make a flow. I'm not saying any flowchart or something. See, it's just I'm going to shortly show you how I do some extent. So I generally write some logic. Okay, do this, do this, do this, and we see if this is done, what it turns out, and if it is done, what it may impact and stuff. So both positives or the solution it provides, as well as other cons what we get. So I generally do that. I use some couple of pens so that I can color code. I can mark some areas in the red pen and stuff. So this is what I do. Of course, although this pen is green, it has a red ink. Okay, so I use a red pen and also sometimes a pencil or something like that, and I just quickly do that. I'm telling you, this is how we do discuss in the industry. And I know that if you are working in a company, you may have a team meeting and you discuss these things with your manager. Sometimes the manager will discuss these things in the whiteboard and stuff. So that's fine. But other than that, when you are given a specific problem, you need to supposed to write a code. Just come up with a rough idea. Okay, sometimes you need to write it on a paper and then think about it, and then later you can do coding of the same. Of course, we do have other steps like in the industry we do high level design, low level design and stuff. So I'm saying even before you come up with a high level design, you can take some time. Sometimes I don't write on a paper also, so sometimes I generally think about it for a week or something like that, and I know that it is quite challenging to address this specific need, so I think about it. Let it be even my own personal projects, let it be Toffee, or it can be a client project. Okay, sometimes I do think about it, and I think for around a couple of weeks, maybe 10 days or maybe even 1 month, and then finally I'll come up with some kind of a plan, and then I work it out whether it is how far it is feasible, and then I get into the programming phase. So I give you a simple example. See, what happens is you are always constantly being thought about, let us take example like C, they teach about pointers and all the stuff, or some programming language, let it be, if not C, then Java, then they teach you about object-oriented coding. The thing is, syntax is fine. Learning grammar, again I'm saying you, learning grammar, learning vocabulary, learning English will not make you a poet. Okay, to become a poet or to become a author of a book, a novel or something, you need to have that storytelling, and you need to be creative in terms of writing a story. So do you have such qualities is my question. Okay, so if there is a specific thing is requested for you to do, you need to think about the logic. Language comes next. What pointers you use, how do you use, what APIs you use, it's all nonsense. You just need to first come up with a logic. So let's take a very simple, very, very simple example. I can open some Excel sheet. See, we take some very, very simple example. See, let's assume we have a situation like you are earning a salary. Okay, I do track these things in a database, not in an Excel sheet, my earnings, and finally if I need to file my returns, my yearly returns, I pass this stuff to my accountant, and he calculates how much tax I should pay and stuff. So I'm giving a very rough idea behind. Okay, so let's assume you're getting some pay. So let me just increase the font size so that you can clearly have a look. So some kind of salary you are getting in a company. Okay, salary, I'm just making it quite simple. So let's assume this is 1000. I don't mention what currency it is. Let's assume it is 1000 units of some currency. It may be dollars, rupees, whatever. So let's assume this is your salary after all the deductions and stuff, and let's assume you have getting some rent or something like that, some extra income. Okay, extra income, and it is not a salary, and it can be even some bank interest. As you know, FDs and other stuff is actually taxable. It is not tax free. Okay, let's assume in that you are getting some 100 units and some extra income, something like 550 or something. So as you know, in Excel sheet we can do this equal to sum of, and we can add the same, and this gives you total earnings. Okay, see, you can mention this as total earnings, and any other deductibles you can have, like tax saving investment. Let us just color code this as this and make it bold, something. So any deductibles you can have this. We have this section 80, this thing, tax saving investments and stuff. So any kind of deductibles, okay, something you can take an account, say 150 units is all your deductibles. So there is some provision available. So finally your taxable income you can make equal to this minus this. So this is what the logic is all about. Okay, so we are not dealing with the programming. It is also not about how you do these things in an Excel sheet. If you are not comfortable with an Excel sheet, just as I said, take a paper and then write the stuff. You are getting this. Let me just zoom this so that you can have a look. Yeah, you can just do this. Let me take a colored pen so that you have enough contrast. So you can do the same. Your salary is this 1000 units, and then I got some extra income, which is some 250, and then I got something else like bank FD etc. It is 250, so it is both together. And this you can use calculator, or you can use it, you can do it in your mind, and then you can get 1500. And then I have some other deductibles, tax exemption. So let us assume that is 200. So 500 minus 200, 1300. It is the taxable income, and from this you need to calculate all that slabs. So you do that. Okay, so this is what you do. Let me change this focus. Yeah, so this is what you do as a part of logic. It is, as you see here, there is no pseudocode involved, there is no flowcharts involved, there is nothing actually I'm saying. So this logic, okay, you can represent in whichever way you want. You can represent in a pseudocode, you can represent in a flowchart, and this is the reason they teach you in the college. But I'm saying you, in the real case, even a person like me, we hardly use any flowcharts, and my client, of course, he uses it and he is comfortable. I mean, he doesn't use a flowchart, he uses some type of flow, this thing, and these days he uses something called as Node-RED and stuff. He directly, it's both flowchart like programming language. Okay, so he uses something like that, and he is good with apps, and he's an expert in that, whereas I'm good in systems and other stuff. So I don't use this, but I do my solution. He don't care what I use, but at the same time he uses something which he is comfortable with. So I'm saying it's based on your comfort. You can directly code this, okay, or if you are unable to get that logic, you can write a flowchart and refine it. Okay, you can write the flowchart, you do this and stuff like that, and refine it, and once you get a concrete idea, then you can start doing coding. I'm saying sometimes if you are working in some companies, there will be some process involved. The company demands you to write function requirement specs like FRS and other stuff, HLD, LLD and all that stuff, and also any sort of API reference guide and other stuff. Once you do all those things, then they will ask you to proceed with the coding. Okay, so if you have something like that, of course you need to go through that software development life cycle which the company have defined. Otherwise, you have given a task, you need to do a particular logic, and then you need to do coding for the same. Then you need to just do something like this. If you are comfortable, do flowcharts. If you are comfortable, do some pseudocode, or else you don't need anything. You can just scribble around, make a point at what you have to achieve and how it can be done, and something you can scribble around and then start translating to the code. If you ask me, I don't usually do any flowcharts. Like I said, I used to do long pack. These days I'm fine. I directly start coding, and I do some workable prototype, a very, very quick prototype. After that, what I do is I refine it, and then I make it more mature and stuff. After each iteration, I make it more mature, add some features, and then make it robust and stuff. And if there are any bugs, I'll fix the bugs, and then I make the code grow. And this is a technique is what entire the Linux kernel does. You don't have any design diagrams of Linux kernel. Of course, you do have some high level architectural pictures and stuff, but I'm still telling you, it is a simple common sense. I mean, any of these architectural diagrams is not going to translate into specific API names and all that. They don't have any low level design diagrams or anything, and then they have done a flowchart and then they have written some kernel modules or something. Never they do that. Okay, so which is why I'm saying, in my situation, I directly translate this logic into code. So I directly try to do the code for the something like this. Say for instance, I do track some my hard disk usage and certain aspects. So you can see here I have done some code. So it is just done step by step, and now it may look very complicated, but I'm telling you, earlier it doesn't had certain features. Slowly I added a few features here and there. Same way I also track how much is the hard drive IO control, IO stat, the statistics I maintain in a database. Okay, so this is something is my own personal bookkeeping. This is not any client project. This is nothing to do with it. This is my personal bookkeeping. I'm doing some kind of evaluation that how many months or something it takes a drive to reach a petabyte of read and write stuff. So it is for my own personal research. So for that I need to enter into the database. You can see here I have written some APIs, and initially the code is not so clean like this. Instead, this same code is been copy pasted a couple of times, and now it has come to this mature look. So if I open here and if I do that this thing, and you can see here I can run that, and it shows currently the GBs of read data is so and so, written data is so and so. And if I want, I can type -u, and I have just recently added this feature. It will ask this confirmation. If I don't type y, it doesn't enter into the database. And I have also added one more feature as to consolidate these entries. So I don't want hundreds of entries in my database, so I added a new feature, something like this. See here, I have added to consolidate. It will delete all the rows, and it will do a summation. It has done that summation, and it is going to do that insert into that database, a fresh row to the database. So this is the thing, and I can do, this entry, the first time entry I have to do only during a system shutdown. So I'm skipping this step, and the next one, confirm consolidate DB entries. Here I can enter y. And you can see here the total DB rows is 1 versus in this case the total DB rows is 2. So you can see there it has consolidated couple of database rows into one single row. So that way I don't need hundreds and thousands of rows. Instead, just I need summation of the entire thing. Since this particular thing goes off after every reboot, I'm taking a historical points, and I'm collecting into a database. So again, I'm saying it's just an example. I don't want you to learn what is that exactly I'm doing. I'm saying this is just an example, and in this case I'm doing via PHP. And I don't care later what else I add here or something like that. I'm again saying I'm not language centric. I can do this in Java, I can do this in C, I can do this in Perl or something. For me, I'm kind of comfortable with the PHP, and it is lot more suitable for things like this. And it's just it's just not that I'm never a language centric person. So I have worked in the past in C++. I don't like any more C++, and in the C you can do certain things. It is very robust, but again C has its own limitation, and it takes a lot of time, and it wastes a lot of time. And so things like this, when I use generally a scripting language like PHP. So you can see one thing I can show you is, you can see here I'm getting this arguments. Okay, this is a code. For instance, it is written from scratch. Again, I'm saying I'm not a person who generally picks up something available in the open source and try to fiddle around. If I want something very specific, I do my own stuff, and I don't need any complicated solution which has all the features and all. I just need exactly what I need. I come up with a code. Okay, so I'm generally saying this is started even without these things. I have done a very, very simple code where it just picks that those iostat values. You can see here I'm doing this command iostat -m and grep disk, and I'm doing this sed cut and all those things, because I just need that how much data is read and how much data is read. Okay, read. So if you do this iostat, you get this output, but we don't need this in this format. We need it in some human friendly format. So -h converts into human friendly format, which means in gigabytes or terabytes or petabytes stuff. Okay, so you can see here big values are converted to GBs. Okay, these are RAM disk, so it is still staying at MBs and KBs. Okay, so after that I need to filter it for grep SDA, because the hard drive one I need, I don't want that RAM drives and stuff. And then I can continue doing that set cut and all that, because I just need MB read means this value, and kilobytes written or something which is write stuff, which means this value. Okay, so the same thing I'm doing here. You can see here, eventually I'm first converting all the spaces into pipe. So I'm doing this, so all the spaces are converted to pipe. Now I can run this cut command, cut minus delimiter. I'm using pipe as the delimiter, since pipe is same as this thing is your this pipe command. So what I'm doing is I can do this, and my minus n, I can say which field I need, so which is 1 2 3 4, either it is 4 or 5th field. Okay, minus f, I'm sorry, yeah, minus f, it is showing the wrong one, so it means 5th field or something. Okay, so you can see here 2 gig is the 5th field. And same way, if I want written bytes, so I can tell as 6, and you can see here it is picking this field. Okay, so first I need to do this stuff, and I need to take this and put it in the language. You can see there I can do this in C also, I can do this in Java also. Language comes next. Okay, so first is the logic, and I have done that, and I have stored it in a variable. Of course, C you can't do this way, it's quite cumbersome doing something like this in C, but you can see here, okay, it is quite easy to understand. So you can see here I'm storing it a variable. The variable I'm taking out that last \n. So I'm doing this chomp, and this equal to this I'm storing. This is a temporary variable I'm storing into this stuff. Anyway, after you come down, you can see I'm just I have done an API. So this API I'm calling, where it converts all these MBs into GBs or PBs. Okay, petabytes actually. So it checks each time this is greater than 1000, and in this place I'm converting by 1000 for each unit. You can also do 1024 if you wish, but in my case I just want it to divide by 1000. So you can see there the entire value is greater than 1000, then divide it and consider as GBs, and if it is even more bigger than that, then consider as TBs. Okay, so you can do that recursively, one after another. I'm not a big fan of recursive APIs, so I'm doing this way. If you're good with recursive APIs, and if you like recursive calls, you can even implement this in different API and call it recursively. Okay, I'm really not a fan of recursive API, so I can keep doing this. I can again copy this, and I can keep doing it over and over to convert. Okay, so I'm showing you this is how I approach, and you can see there it is just printing it, and here after it processes I'm entering it to the database. For database I don't need to get any printable values, it's always represented in MBs or something. So you can see here the field names for the database is MBs, so I am providing whatever here I read over here. Okay, so this is entered into the database, and so and so. Okay, so this is what it happens. And same way other things I'm showing, I'm counting the number of rows. I need how many rows in the database. Again, you see here I'm not language centric, I'm logic centric. Okay, so focus that when you want to become a programmer, focus on the logic. I'm again saying you don't focus on the language. Language you can learn any language, it's the same thing. You store some variables, you have some for loops, you have some while loops, you have some if condition, switch condition, and go tos, and that's all. I mean, other than that, you have equal to, you have some comparison operators, which is this variable is bigger than this, so and so do this. So that's what. So I just tell you in which way this is different from C. Okay, it is, the logic is most important, and I don't see much difference between this and Java either. Okay, you can see there it is a if condition, and if I provide -u, do this, and if it is the read line instead of this, in the case of C you can get get char or something, or get s or scanf you can do and get that keyboard input. and check the keyboard input strcomp. You do this. In the case of PHP, I don't need to do that, so I'm directly doing string wise comparison. You can do this, and if it is capital Y, then do this. So I'm saying you, language comes next, logic comes first. So practice writing a logic, and when a particular problem is given to you on a sheet of paper, forget about code, forget about language, just to see that what you can analyze and address. So before I conclude, let me take you guys again to this Excel sheet example. See, here we got this taxable income is 1,500, and this makes sense to track in case if you want to see that how much you are earning. See, that way, assume you have an Excel sheet. Let me open another sheet. That way you are putting a chart. This is 2019. In the month of January, you have earned some 1,000 units. February 1520, 1300, 1450, so on actually. Okay, Feb, March, April. So you want to see that which month you earned more, which month you are not earning, and there is another month, say May. Let's assume you have just earned around 900 units, and May, June, after that even less, something like 120 or something. So this is what it is, and you want to track your earnings. Okay, so let's assume you want to put it in a chart or something. Okay, you can select this, and you can click this chart, and you can see here it has auto detected, and you can tell finish, and of course you can change this into months and all those things. Okay, you can edit this, format, legend, something, and instead of that you need to tell that data ranges, data series, something, and go here and change that legend value, and instead of column F you can mention as months and other stuff. Anyway, you can see here this graph tells you which months you failed to earn, which is March versus February you got the most, and then April you got less and stuff. And in case if you can't properly derive or cognize these points, you can choose some other graph like this, like a line graph or an area based line graph, which I do sometimes. You can also do this, and finish, and you can see here this chart. Okay, this chart gives you much more detailed analysis. You can see there there is a huge peak over here which corresponds to the month of Feb, and then March it has fallen down, and then April it is trying to recover, and then it has steeply fallen down in the month of May, and June it is completely nothing actually. So I'm saying something like this. So assume you are not a salaried person and you are a consultant like me. These are going to be like my earnings actually. 1 month I get, 1 month I don't get. Okay, so you can see there is a lot of fluctuation, or it can be some stock market ticks or something. So I'm saying you, the logic, whatever you put should correspond to what you need exactly. So in this case, we need to track that data points, and you can see there you do this and you do this and you get. So this is what. So when you write any graphing libraries, you need to write all those things about this line should go to this angle, all that stuff I'm saying, in case if you are doing with some JavaScript UI libraries actually. So I'm saying again, focus on logic, use whatever tools you are comfortable with. Okay, try flowcharts. If you feel flowchart is cumbersome, doing that, it is usually easy flowcharts to do on a paper. Okay, you just need to take a pencil or a pen. By the way, my manager in my ex company always used to use a pencil. He's comfortable with that. Sometimes I do use a pencil because I generally not a person who likes any ballpoint pens, because they initially, you need to struggle in terms of get going initially. Okay, suddenly, as you can see, they don't write. After some time, it writes fine. And this aspect I just don't like with this. I feel very annoying. So I generally use a pencil if it is quickly something I need to mark it out, and suddenly I'm getting some phone number, I just need to write it down, something like that. So I use a pencil for that. It anyway doesn't dry up. You can just use anytime. So use something like this and write a rough flowchart. And also one advantage with a pencil is you can use an eraser, erase it, and then you can redo the things. Okay, so if you are a person like that, you can use a tool like a pencil. A simple pencil is more than enough. And flowcharts are often comfortable doing on a paper rather than directly putting on a system, because small aspects, of course you can do re-edits and you can do prints and all that, but one of the annoying thing about a flowchart is I'm saying flowchart, if you want to give to a team and submit to your manager, yes, you need to use some software tool. I'm saying you, suppose you want to get the logic okay, to solve something, and in that case it is just optional. Instead of using this some cumbersome platform like this, just use a paper and a pencil, okay, or a pen, and then you can do on a sheet of a paper. You can erase, you can scribble, or else if it is not done proper, you just tear this paper and then do all over freshly on another sheet of paper till you get it right, and then you can translate into a code. Let it be any language. Okay, so this is one approach. Or otherwise you can write some kind of a pseudocode, or you can even write a sort of C code itself directly. Don't write all that nitty gritty stuff. This pointer is this is address of this is this. Not that bullshit. Okay, what you do is just conceptually write what you want to achieve. This is calling this API, okay, this API blah blah blah, something it does and it gives this, okay, something like a high level design or something. You can write the concept on a paper, and then once you sit back on a system, you can start doing the code. Whereas in my case, I generally do a stub code. I have my own approach. I generally do a stub code, and sometimes if it is a scripting language like this PHP what I showed, my thoughts I can directly write instead of flowchart, instead of pseudocode, I can directly write into a code itself. Okay, whereas in the case of C, I start quite slow. I approach quite cautiously, and when it comes to kernel coding, I approach even more cautiously, because you can do an extensive lengthy code, and once you compile and once you build and suddenly it is crashing, the kernel is crashing, something is happening, it is a nightmare to debug further. So in the case of kernel, I do very small lines of small lines of code. I check whether these are working, and then I add a couple of more lines. Again I test, I see how far it is working, and then slowly I add more features, okay, step by step, by confirming that so far whatever is added, it is stable enough and it is not impacting the kernel in any way. Okay, so kernel is a different approach. Okay, so it's hardly you may write a couple of lines of code every day. It's just kernel is completely different. Whereas if you see the other aspects, it is up to your comfort level. So choose whatever you are comfortable. Focus on logic. Throughout this video, as you can see here, nowhere I'm mentioning any language specifically. Use this way variable, use that way variable, name the variables like this, name them. Yes, even those things are very important. How you name your variables, APIs and stuff. Don't keep a variable names as xxx and y, a equal to a plus b or something like that. Never do that. Write a meaningful name. You can see the code over here. You can see that each variable, it has a meaningful name. It is easy for you to debug and also properly indent the code, so that the code is a lot more readable, and of course you can add any comments and other stuff. So yeah, that's what. So hope these tips have been useful. Again, I'm saying I'm not just some YouTuber and giving you some random tips. I'm a guy who works still in the industry, and I do consult as an architect. So I felt let me share my valuable tips so that it will help you also. So if you are very new to programming, focus on logic. Last is your language. You can express in any language. Last comes is language. How do you express? Sometimes a specific logic is easy to express in a specific language, difficult to express in a different language. Same way, whatever I showed you is easy to express in PHP, and it is cumbersome with C, and it is partially cumbersome with another language like Java actually. So I have done coding in Java, C++, of course C, and then Perl, and to an extent Python. And I'm saying you, after all these things, I don't like anymore Java. It is stupid language. It is just really stupid. And anything object oriented is already a debate. Even if you are very new and if you don't like me suddenly contradicting, it is not my opinion. You can go through, there is a thread running behind Linux toolboards and stuff. They now conclude object oriented itself is one of the biggest mistakes in programming languages. It has its advantages, but you can do very well things you do in object oriented in a procedural language also. So I'm saying you, in PHP also, of course, you can put oops. In Perl you can put oops, but I like without using any such oops concepts. I am good enough to write any complicated logic without oops. So this is my approach. I'm saying you choose your approach, okay? And expressing it is also important. How do you express it is also important, like variable names, API names, for loops versus while loops, and switch versus if conditions, recursive versus no recursive APIs. This is also needed. Syntax is also needed, but the most important thing is logic. Okay, so if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you have any questions, feel free to discuss in YouTube comments or post your queries in email as well. Okay, thanks a lot for joining me. Stay tuned. Have a nice day. Bye bye.